G'day folks, in this video I'm cutting a multi-start thread. In my previous video I made a mess of it. This is the video I was actually trying to do when I created the mess that was the last video. I don't claim to be an expert, this is just what I found out as I was doing this multi-start thread cutting. In the top we have a single start thread and down below we have a 3-start thread. Both are the same pitch, but one revolution of the bottom thread takes you 6 millimeters instead of 2. If you take the circumference of your thread and offset it as I have done here against the lead in a triangle, the angle that you get is the helix angle, which is the angle you need to tip your insert over at to cut your thread. I finished this video and then I realised I needed to draw a picture. You can see here that the red insert, if you use that on a increased lead, you cut your clearance down to almost nothing on the leading side. And that really is what this video is about. Right, enough of the terrible explanation. Hopefully it will become clearer as we move along. This is a standard insert holder, and you can see the seat for the insert is tipped over at 1 degree. Now this is a Sandvik tool holder, and that part which is between the dimension lines, I think that's called an anvil, and that is actually a 1 degree anvil, and you can get them in different degrees to suit different helix angles of threads. Here the anvil's out of the holder. You can see it's marked with a 1 degree, and they are available in different numbers of degrees to suit different threads. Here it's back on the holder with the screw holding it in place and an insert sitting on top. Here's a standard insert, and you can see it's at 90 degrees. Would be silly to try and put an angle on every insert. This graph's put out by various suppliers, and it allows you to work out what helix angle you need under your insert to cut your thread. And you can see I'm looking at 24 diameter, 6 lead, and I'm in the 4.5 degrees. Not quite 4.5, very early in the 4.5. Here I'm trying to jack up the insert on one side so that I get the appropriate helix angle. That's a little bit of wire that I hammered flat. I ended up just cutting myself a piece of shim stock and putting that in there, and it worked quite well. This is the angle I ended up with my piece of shim stock under it. And I found magically that if I take the square of the conniption and multiply it by 42, I get exactly 4.1 degrees. I'll be using a Sumitomo full profile 2mm insert. Here's a quick look at last week's abomination. You can see that wasn't working very well at all. Here's the simulation of the thread being cut. That's just to take the excess material away. You can see that there is no hint in the simulation that the problem that I got that you saw just before was going to be a problem for me. So you can see there it is, looks perfect. Okay, let's make some chips. This is a spindle speed of 1000, so I've sped it up to 4 times the video speed so that we don't all die of boredom. Unfortunately the blue marking dye wasn't really dry, and it picks up little bits of chip and looks ridiculous. I apologise for that, but I didn't realise I had to go have a cup of tea to wait for it to dry. Here I think we're on the second thread already, and now we're on the third. I've only included 3 or 4 passes here. It was taking about 14 passes because it's a fairly deep thread, and my lathe doesn't like taking heavy cuts when it's threading. That's the final pass. The reason for the slow turning speed is because I put the lathe into low range so that I could cut the thread at 200 RPM. Now here I'm cutting the thread with the shim removed and only 1 degree of angle on the insert, and to me it looks okay. Here's a close-up of the thread that was cut with a 4.5 degrees or 4.1 degrees, and this is the thread with 1 degree. This is the thread with 4.5 degrees, or 4.1 it was, wasn't it? Not 4.5. And 1 degree. I have to admit, I can't tell the difference. They look the same. Here we go. 1 revolution and 6 millimeters of travel. I just hope I haven't made such a mess of this that I have to take the darn video down. Thank you for watching.